Hi everyone, welcome back to our MOOC on sustainability strategy. My name is Nat Pimpa from College of Management, Mahidol University, and this is my great honor to welcome you back to the second lesson. In this lesson, I would like to introduce core concept on United Nations Global Compact, which will help you to understand the way in which business world, corporate world, and government can work together to promote the concept of sustainability. In this particular part of your learning, you have to read a couple of interesting articles based on the research on the UNGC or United Nations Global Compact, as well as you have to do a lot of criticism of the value of UNGC, the practicality of UNGC, and you will have to make sure that you criticize the concept. It is very important for us at this level of learning that you can show your ability to analyze and criticize the concept that we share with you. But having said that, I still would like to present four important aspects of the United Nations Global Compact. In this MOOC, I will start with the key meaning and definition of the United Nations Global Compact. What is it and why it is important for us in business and management? Then I will unfold the four important concepts that the UN has been adopted and implemented with the business worldwide. And finally, in the very last part of this MOOC, I would like to challenge all of you to think of how can we really transfer this concept into the practical aspect of your corporate. So this is my hope that you should be able to first understand the concept. Second, you should be able to identify the four principles of the United Nations Global Compact. And last but not least, you should be able to transfer this concept into your own organization and criticize its relevance to the management and operation of your organization. What is the United Nations Global Compact? You may question. And why do we have to think about it when it comes to the concept of sustainability and management? Well, I have a few points to share with you at this part of your learning. This concept started back in 1999 and in 2000 at the UN headquarters in New York. They launched the United Nations Global Compact as a framework for business and government to work together to promote long-term benefit and sustainability in this world. The UNGC is actually a corporation that initiated by the United Nations. And it's actually the world's largest initiative of the UN, whereby over 170 countries in the world start to share, and the majority of multinational corporations in the world share their resources and become the member of the United Nations Global Compact. In this particular concept of the UNGC, we try to achieve four aspects of sustainability, and that include environmental aspect, human rights, anti-corruption, and more importantly, we talk about labor. So these four aspects will be what we discuss in this MOOC, and we would like to introduce the four concepts as well as challenge you to think about how can we really confirm that these four aspects are really important. More importantly, I would like you to think of these four aspects as the way that you, as the change agent or the thinker of the sustainability concept, how can you really transfer this into the operation of your corporate? Remember, we are focusing on four important issues, and there are human rights, environmental issue, labor, and anti-corruption. The very first principle that we need to take into account is the concept of human rights and business. I do believe that all of you are very familiar with this concept. Human rights is all around us, and human rights is beyond the concept of political policy. It is social policy. And for us in business, whether you are the owner of small and medium enterprise, whether you work in a large corporation, or if you own a direct multinational corporation, the concept of human rights is tremendous. It impacts millions of lives, and it can really encourage people to act ethically. And more importantly, it can really improve quality of living. So for us, we need to address that the concept of human rights and international business should be seen as one of the most important issues. So let's look at this into the detail of the United Nations Global Compact. There are a couple of issues there, and I'd like to start from the concept as well as what should we do as the policymaker in international business. Okay, the principle set out in the UNGC, overarching a lot of expectation of human rights and business, namely to respect and to support human rights. Okay, we also talk about respecting human rights. That means business should use their due diligence to avoid infringing human rights. In other words, don't harm people. They should address adverse human rights impact with which they are involved to the part of production. In addition, beyond respecting human rights, business should encourage to take action to support human rights. In this aspect, we think of they should set the opportunity, a great opportunity to take voluntary action to make a positive contribution towards the protection and fulfillment of human rights wherever or whenever they talk about their own core business in the country. All right. For me, when you talk about action, I'd like you to think about the action that corporate can support human rights, and that should be a complement to and not a substitution for their own action. All right. This is more importantly, we are talking about to respect human in part of the production, human being who lived in the community, and human being who are part of the supply chain system. Right? So in other words, human rights is not to violate other people as part of the production. And more importantly, they have to try to protect those who are seen as the vulnerable groups, such as people from the minority backgrounds, people who speak language other than national languages, people who are seen as those from low socioeconomic background, children, young girls, and in many places, women and girls from different ethnic groups. So corporate should use their resources to promote equality among human and human beings as part of their production. So this is the very first concept. The next part that I think is important for us is why should company care about this issue? All right. So in other words, you should ask the question why it's important. Well, for us, respect human rights is the right to do things. It's the right thing to do for companies, and it is also the important part of business that they show their identity as a good citizen. They are part of the society. They are the social fabric. So they need to show their own identity as the good member of society. And a number of research show that when corporates behave ethically by showing their respect of human rights or change their policy to make sure that there is no violation of human rights, there's a high level of likability and respect among stakeholders, government, and people as the public who show their relationship with the corporate. Right? So as a concept, I believe you can see that human rights is truly important for all companies operating in the world if they are very serious about sustainability. Now, let's move on to the activity for this part, because I found that it is more important for us to work together on the way you can transfer this concept into practice. I'd like you first, in your own note, to write down your own interpretation of human rights and why it is important for business and management, particularly the sustainability aspect of business. Second, I would like you to look at a real-life example. Please write down a paragraph of a company that adopt the concept of human rights into their sustainability concept or report. Tell us the story of the company and what they have done to achieve the concept of human rights as part of the sustainability program of the company, right? So in these two parts, I'd like you to think very carefully, and we'll come back to share our feedback with you when you submit your work to us. Once again, you may question what should we take into account when it comes to the scope of the responsibility, particularly when it comes to the concept of human rights and sustainability, right? I have got 3 points to share with you, and this comes from the recommendation from the United Nations Global Compact. Well, first of all, you have to understand the local context. This is very important that you, as the manager or the CEO of a company, that you consider the country and local context in which it is operating for any human rights challenges that are in the context of rights. Okay? For example, issues on working with people of minorities, people from low socioeconomic backgrounds who will need your help to empower or who will need to be supported from your company. This kind of information can be available from whether the local government, the non-governmental organization in the country where you operate, from the civil society group, the trade union, and different other forms of international organization. You need to understand the local context of who are there. The second point is you need to look at factors involved considering whether the company is causing or contributing to adverse human rights yourself. All right, again, it's come back to the concept of the local context, and you need to understand what should be or shouldn't be done from the concept of human rights and activities in the country. Company should address this impact by adjusting their policy and practices to prevent the infringement from occurring. An illustrative list of activities which direct impact might include the production process itself, the product or the service that you offer in the country, the issues on labor and employment, the policy, as well as the provision of security of personnel and asset in the country. And the very last point, the third point, is the way in which you analyze the company's relationship with different other actors in the country. Remember, human rights is the central concept where you need to work and involve the government, the NGO, civil society, and more importantly, the community. Right? So I hope this part of your learning will help you to understand how can we really promote human rights as part of the sustainability management. Let's move on to the next point of the concept of United Nations Global Compact. This point is really important. Well, we are very familiar with the concept of environmental issues, and this might be the starting point of our conversation on sustainability. Well, I'm sure you believe that the key argument for most business is how can we really protect and save the world? How can we really create a good environmental condition as part of our production, as part of our consumption and business operation, right? Business is the major actors to be blamed for the cause of environmental degradation in different parts of the world through different mechanisms. Well, so when we look at the concept of United Nations Global Compacts, they focus on three principles. First one is business should support a precautionary approach to environmental challenges. Second, business should undertake initiatives to promote greater environmental responsibility. And the third one is business should encourage the development and diffusion of environmentally friendly technologies. Well, this is important for us to think of these three particular principles from the environmental angle of the UNGC. But what's important for us is we need to look at the concept and how it started. I'd like to take you back to 1952 when we talk about the Rio Earth Summit in Brazil. And at that time, we talk about the spell out of the role of business and industry in the sustainable development agenda, such as business and industry. They should increase self-regulations. They should guide by appropriated codes, charters, and initiatives integrated into all elements of business planning and decision making. And more importantly, business should foster openness and dialogues with employees and the public when it comes to environmental issues. Well, from all these concepts from the Rio Declarations, I believe that you can think of the way in which business can use all their resources to transform the concept into policy and to ensure that the activities within their own operation do not cause harm to the environment of the world. Again, I'm talking about the host, the home countries, and neighboring countries. Society expects business to be good, particular to act as the environmental champion and actors in the community. In this case, business gains its legitimacy through meeting the needs of society, and increasingly society is expecting a clear need for more environmentally sustainability practices by business. So the concept is there. I'd like you to think more importantly, particularly from the three principles that we focus. Thinking of the new technologies and diffusion that promote environmentally friendly challenges. The way that company can undertake initiative to promote greater environmental responsibility, right? From production to the consumption, from the relationship from the headquarters to the country of operations with different other stakeholders. All right, so let's move on to our activities for this topic, right? I have got this article for you to read. Look at this article. Particularly, we try to focus on the relationship between environmental issues from the UNGC concept and how it can be transferred into the operation of sustainability policies in company. I'd like you to read this carefully and then summarize the key concepts into 2 points, please. We're talking about 2 points that you learn from this article. And once you get these 2 points, in the next part of your note, please draw a relationship between these 2 points and the concept of sustainability. Let's do it together. Labor is an important issue when it comes to sustainability, and there is no single industry or company that can operate without labor. So the United Nations Global Compact focuses pretty much on how do we treat labor and how can we promote equity among labor. I'd like you to look at the details of the United Nations Global Compact under the concept of labor, and then you will find out three important principles. First, UNGC say that business should uphold the freedom of association and the effective recognition of the right to collective bargaining. It is important here that we talk about the way in which we promote freedom to bargain among labor, whether in the forms of individual bargaining or in the forms of labor union, as well as different other forms of activities that our labor can voice their idea and then need back to the company. Remember, this part is really associated with the concept of human rights. If you promote people to be equal, the promotion of your labor to have their voice recognized within the organization is truly important for the concept of sustainability. The next principle under labor is the fact that companies should promote the elimination of all forms of forced and compulsory labor, right? Well, this is sad but true that in most parts of the world, we still experience forced labor of different forms of people. For example, girls, women, minorities, or people who come from low socioeconomic backgrounds. They may not be able to bargain or refuse to work for a number of social or legal actions. Well, from our understanding of the world, particular, you heard of issue from the Southeast Asia, there might be some issues of migrant workers who need to depart from their home countries for a number of political and social reasons and look for a new home. They might become the victim of the concept of forced labor in the new country. Well, a good company that cares so much about sustainability should not promote forced labor in this circumstance. And the last issue which I think is important is the principle that focuses on the elimination of discrimination in respect of employment and occupation. I know that discrimination is part of life in many parts of the world, in many countries of the world, but at workplace, that should be stopped. And in society as a whole, we can make it better if we force together to stop the concept of discrimination. Discrimination comes in different forms and places. For instance, you might think of issues on discrimination against people from different belief and religious background, the LGBTQI group at workplace, women in some heavy industry, girls or underage people, as well as people who speak languages other than the mainstream, right? We should have a clear policy that we promote equality among our workers regardless of the backgrounds, right? It is important that company will not discriminate people because it will really promote the goodwill in society, and at the same time we believe that it will promote equality among people. And this is what the United Nations Global Compact really thoughts, really believe, and really push most multinational corporations that become part of the member to act. Now, we come to the very last part of the United Nations Global Compact and sustainability. And the very last principle, the 10th principle, which was announced in 2004, is anti-corruption. If you think of the way we operate at the global level, corruption is everywhere. Corruption has long been the root of the problem in terms of sustainability and the promotion of fairness and equity. Of course, when you think of corruption, it is the problem because it's really limit opportunities and fairness in promoting efficiency, right? So the United Nations Global Compact released this idea and make sure that company need to be sure that they need to challenge their stakeholder and make sure that they work collectively with civil society, government, and different other agencies to promote fairness. In other words, anti-corruption strategies, right? You might question why should company care so much about anti-corruption, right? And there are many reasons why the elimination of the corruption should be seen as the priority for the company. Well, first of all, if you are part of the movement on anti-corruption, you can create confidence and trust among investor, customer, employees, and different other stakeholders whom you work with. Second, and I insist that the United Nations Global Compacts look at this as the form to promote efficiency, right? If you promote anti-corruption, you can really promote the concept of global efficiency at this large level. And obviously, the concept of anti-corruption is a great movement that we talk about the way in which we try to create equality for people and organizations at national, international, and global level. Okay? The rapid development of rules of corporate governance around the world is also prompting companies to focus on anti-corruption measures as part of the mechanism to express corporate sustainability and to protect their reputation and the interests of the stakeholder. Right? So I'd like you to think about this anti-corruption system, the way in which the companies worldwide try to extend their roles from the producer to the one that act ethically. And of course, not involving in issues such as bribery, the corruption, extortion, or the use of your own resources to win over your competitor unethically. All of this should be seen as a package that corporate worldwide need to work together to promote fairness in doing work. And of course, in the long run, this concept will promote the concept of sustainability, right? So in this part, I'd like to conclude that for its business manager or organizational manager, we need to think of the world where we are living. It is not just about the country where you live or the region where you live, but it's the whole world that we need to work together to promote the concept of sustainability. And there are many ways to achieve this concept. Looking at the United Nations Global Compact principles is one important aspect that I need to address to all of you who are studying this concept, the concept of sustainability, tools, management, and how can we operate. So, in conclusion, this is my hope that this lesson will help you to understand the way in which we work together with different layers of organization at the global level. And I believe that you will see the values of the United Nations Compacts as the measurement and the policy that help you to walk through the concept of sustainability. All right, so I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for being with me and my team on this lesson. In the next lesson, we'll take you through another point of learning in the concept of sustainability management. But for me by now, thank you very much. Goodbye.